I drove 2 hours through the freezing rain to get back to my childhood home, clutching a $60 bottle of Cabernet as a peace offering. The highway stretched out like a gray ribbon under the bleak December sky, and my knuckles were white as I gripped the steering wheel of my beat-up sedan. Even though I had officially moved out 6 months ago to a tiny one-bedroom apartment in the city, the moment I stepped through the front door of the Miller estate, my identity shifted. I wasn't Chloe, the independent marketing coordinator. I was just the help. My mother, Barbara, snatched the gift bag from my hand before I could even set down my purse. She didn't say thank you. Her eyes scanned me up and down like I was a delivery driver who had arrived late with a pizza. "Go to the kitchen. The prime rib isn't even in the oven yet," she commanded, claiming her back hurt too much to cook. Then she turned her back on me and walked away, her silk blouse rustling as she disappeared into the living room. My stomach twisted into a knot. I hadn't even taken off my coat yet. Christmas Eve wasn't starting with hugs or laughter. It was starting with stifling silence and a chore list. In the kitchen, a massive slab of prime rib sat on the granite counter, still half-wrapped in butcher paper. I tied on the old apron hanging on the pantry door, the same one I'd worn since I was 16, and got to work. I seasoned the meat with rosemary and garlic, preheated the oven to 450, and focused on the task at hand. Through the crack in the swinging kitchen door, I could see the rest of the family. My father, Richard, my mother, my older sister, Jessica, and my brother, Tyler, were all sitting in the candlelit dining room. The warm glow of the crystal chandelier made the scene look like a holiday greeting card. They were raising glasses of wine and laughing, their voices filtering through the doorway like a party I wasn't invited to. Meanwhile, I stood alone by the cold kitchen island, eking the pecan pie I had made from scratch. The crust had turned a perfect golden brown, with crimped edges that had taken me 20 minutes to get just right. They had started the feast without even asking if I was ready to join them. When the timer finally buzzed and I pulled the pie from the oven, I heard the scrape of silverware on china. I wiped my hands on the apron and walked out to the dining room, hopeful that maybe now we could eat together. But my seat at the table offered a harsh reality check. On my plate, there were no thick, juicy slices of the prime rib I had spent hours preparing. There were just the burnt ends and fatty scraps, piled pitifully next to a cold scoop of mashed potatoes. It was the garbage meat, the stuff you usually throw away or give to the dog. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. Jessica was cutting into a thick, pink center-cut slice, the juice running onto her porcelain plate. Tyler had piled his plate high with 3 massive slices. My father was chewing slowly, nodding with satisfaction at the flavor. My mother glanced at me, her voice ice-cold. "Eat fast so you can clean up," she said. "I want to watch the movie by 8 o'clock." I picked up my fork, my hand trembling slightly. The burnt meat was tough and tasted bitter, like ash. I hurried to eat that meager amount of food in 5 short minutes, forcing myself to swallow back the tears that were threatening to spill. The mashed potatoes stuck in my throat like paste. Nobody asked me how work was going. Nobody asked about my drive. Nobody even wished me a Merry Christmas. After the meal, they all migrated to the living room to watch a movie, leaving me with the battlefield. The table was a mess of plates smeared with gravy, wine glasses stained with lipstick, and crumpled linen napkins. I cleared the table and stacked the dishes in the sink, knowing I would have to wash them by hand later. The kitchen was a disaster zone, with grease splattered on the backsplash and pots pie, lead high. I carefully arranged 5 dessert forks and 5 of Barbara's special Christmas plates on a serving tray. They were white glazed porcelain with festive red and green polka dots, and she had made it very clear that nobody was allowed to touch them except for special occasions. I divided the pecan pie into 5 portions, measuring each slice with my eyes to make sure they were perfectly even so no one could complain. I added a scoop of vanilla bean ice cream to each slice, watching it begin to melt into the warm filling. The tray was heavy, and my arms shook slightly as I carried it out. The living room was dark except for the glow of the television playing a romantic comedy. I could hear the canned laughter from the TV speakers as I approached. They had arranged themselves on the sectional sofa like royalty. My father was in his recliner, my mother stretched out on the chaise, and Jessica and Tyler were sprawled across the middle cushions. I distributed the dessert to each person, careful not to block anyone's view of the screen. My father took his plate without looking at me. My mother did the same. Tyler grabbed his with one hand, his eyes glued to his phone. When I brought the cake plate to Jessica, she didn't even look up from her Instagram feed. Her hand waved dismissively to take the plate, but her eyes never left her screen. "Jess, here is your pie," I said softly. Crash. The pecan pie with the cold ice cream flipped upside down onto the floor. The white plate with the cheerful red and green polka dots shattered into 3 large, jagged pieces. Ice cream splattered across the Persian rug, the one my mother had paid $3,000 for last spring. My heart stopped beating for a second. "Oh my God, Chloe!" Jessica shrieked, jerking her feet up onto the sofa. But she didn't apologize. Instead of saying sorry for knocking it out of my hand, she just lifted her feet to avoid the mess and jerked her chin at me. Her hand never left her phone, while her other hand reached out to grab a fresh plate of pie from the tray I was still holding. "So, this Christmas I guess you don't get dessert," she sneered. "Go get something to clean this up." Nobody else said a word. I whispered, "I'll get a rag," and went back to the kitchen. My hands were shaking violently as I wet a cloth under the faucet. When I returned, I knelt down on the floor, my knees pressing into the soft wool of the rug. As I was scrubbing the sticky filling out of the fibers, still wearing the apron I hadn't been allowed to take off, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a Facebook notification from Tyler. My stomach dropped. I pulled out my phone with sticky fingers and clicked the notification. He had just posted a 10-second video. In the video, I was on my hands and knees wiping the floor at Jessica's feet while she ate pie and posed mockingly, pointing down at me with her fork. The angle made it look like I was bowing to her. Tyler had captioned it, "The maid is acting up again. Cinderella wannabe. Good help is so hard to find." The video already had 12 likes. I looked up to see Tyler giggling, showing the screen to Jessica. She burst out laughing, nearly choking on her pie. My mother glanced over but said nothing, her face impassive. My father took a sip of his beer and called out, his voice dripping with condescension. "Oh, come on, she likes doing it," he said. "Chloe was born to serve, right, honey?" The whole room burst into laughter. Even the actors on the TV seemed to be laughing at me. That was the moment everything inside me finally shattered. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the dirty rag at Tyler's smug face, even though I desperately wanted to. Instead, I placed the wet, dirty rag decisively onto Tyler's expensive porcelain plate that was sitting on the rug next to him. The rag landed with a wet plop, smearing cream and pie filling all over the pristine white surface. Then I stood up and walked straight toward the stair. "You have to finish cleaning!" Jessica screamed from behind me, her voice shrill with indignation. "You can't leave the plate on the floor like that." I didn't turn around. I kept walking, my footsteps heavy on the stairs. I walked past the landing, vaguely hearing Tyler comforting her. "It's okay. She'll come back and clean it up. She always does." But I wasn't going to clean it up. Not tonight. Not ever again. I didn't go to my old bedroom. I went straight to the guest room where I had left my overnight bag. I grabbed the duffel bag I hadn't even opened yet and went straight out the back exit through the mudroom. My coat was still downstairs in the coat closet, but I didn't care. The December wind bit through my thin sweater as I crossed the driveway to my car. I started my beat-up 2008 Honda Civic and drove straight out of the driveway without looking back. I drove for an hour, my hands shaking on the wheel until I reached my Aunt Sarah's house. She lived in a modest ranch-style home on the other side of town, far away from the estate my parents were so proud of. When I pulled into her driveway, it was nearly 10 o'clock. The porch light was on, casting a warm yellow glow on the snow. My Uncle Ben opened the door before I could even knock. He must have seen my headlights. Seeing my state, shivering, coatless, and clutching a bag, he didn't ask questions. "Come in," he said simply. "We have hot chocolate." I burst into tears right there on the doormat. Aunt Sarah appeared behind him, her face creased with worry. She pulled me into a hug that smelled like cinnamon and pine needles, and I sobbed into her shoulder while Uncle Ben took my bag. They sat me down on their worn velvet couch, wrapped me in a fleece blanket, and put a mug of spiked cocoa in my hands. "When you are ready," Aunt Sarah said softly. I told them everything. The burnt meat, the dropped pie, the video, my father's words. Uncle Ben's jaw tightened until a muscle popped in his cheek. Aunt Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I knew they were cold," she said quietly, "but I didn't realize it had gotten this bad." "It has always been this way," I whispered. "I just kept thinking if I tried harder, maybe they would love me." "Oh, honey," Aunt Sarah said, pulling me close again. "This isn't about you. This has never been about you." That night, in the small, peaceful guest room, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying every humiliation. Finally, at 2 in the morning, I opened my laptop. It was time to face reality. My family believed they owned me because of a joint bank account my mother had insisted on opening when I was 16. "For emergencies," she had said. I had been depositing my paychecks there for years, dutifully transferring money for bills and groceries. But they were wrong if they thought that was all I had. 3 years ago, I had secretly opened a high-yield savings account at a completely different bank. Every bonus, every overtime payment, every tax refund, it all went there. The screen displayed the balance, $28,400. It had taken me 3 years of sacrifice to save that. I switched tabs to the joint account where I usually kept about $2,000 for family bills. Current balance, 0. I had just transferred every single cent of my contribution out. I did it in the car sitting in Aunt Sarah's driveway. When the clock hit 3 a.m., I checked my phone one last time. A text from Mom, sent hours ago. "What are you doing? Why aren't the dishes washed?" A second text. "Chloe, this is unacceptable. Come downstairs right now." It seemed no one knew I had left. They still thought I was the weak little girl who would come back down to clean up. But Cinderella was dead. There was only Chloe, and Chloe had had enough. I turned off my phone and went to sleep. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a flood of notifications. Mom's text at 7 a.m. accused me of ruining Christmas Essie. Period. No mention of the video. No mention of what they did to me. I deleted it without responding. Aunt Sarah made me pancakes, and Uncle Ben read the newspaper, occasionally looking at me with kind eyes. I stayed with them for 3 days. 3 days where nobody asked me to serve them. When the weekend ended, I drove back to my rented apartment. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I was unpacking when my phone buzzed again. Jessica. Without a single word of apology, she sent a text reeking of entitlement. "Why was the card declined at the spa? I need to pay $800 right now." My blood ran cold. She was trying to use the joint card, the one I had drained. I texted back, my fingers flying. "That is a joint checking account, and I have withdrawn all my portion of the money. Good luck with the spa bill." I hit send and set down the phone. 5 seconds later, it rang. "Jessica." I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Then the texts started pouring in. "Chloe, are you kidding me? You can't just take the money. That is theft." Chloe, call me immediately. Mom needs that money for groceries. You are stealing from your own family. I sat on my couch and read them all. Every single one. I let the words wash over me. Selfish, ungrateful, terrible daughter. Then I quietly blocked their numbers one by one. Jessica. Blocked. Tyler. Blocked. Dad. Blocked. Mom. I hesitated for a second, then pressed block. The silence was deafening. That evening around 9 p.m., someone started pounding on my apartment door. Chloe, open this door right now. It was my mother's voice. And Jessica's. My stomach dropped. They had driven 40 minutes to my apartment to scream at me. We know you're in there. Your car is in the lot. Bang, bang, bang. I stood frozen in my kitchen. A door opened down the hall. Hey, people are trying to sleep, a neighbor yelled. Mind your own business, Jessica shrieked back. More banging. They were going to break down my door. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? My mother and sister are at my apartment banging on my door and screaming. I am scared. Are you in immediate danger? I don't know. They are very angry. Officers are on the way. Stay inside. 5 minutes later, I heard sirens. The banging stopped abruptly. I peeked through the blinds. 2 police cars. My mother and Jessica were on the walkway, gesturing wildly to the cops. One of the officers looked up at my window. A knock came a moment later. Ma'am? Police. I opened the door a crack. The officer was young and kind. Are you Chloe Miller? Yes. Are you all right? I am fine. I just want them to leave. He nodded. They are leaving now. We explained that this is harassment. If they come back, call us immediately. I watched the patrol cars pull away. A few minutes later, there was another knock, softer this time. It was my neighbor from 3B holding a plate of cookies. I heard the commotion, she said. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. I burst into tears for the second time in 3 days. We sat in my living room eating cookies, and for the first time, I felt something other than hurt. I felt angry, but my family wasn't done. Unable to force me to open the door, they switched to attacking my livelihood. It started 2 days later at work. My work phone buzzed. Someone had tagged my company in a Facebook post. I opened it with dread. Tyler had written a long post about how his sisters scammed the family and stole retirement funds. He claimed our company employed people with no moral character. Jessica had shared it. They had mobilized friends to leave fake reviews on my company's page. Employee Chloe Miller is a thief. Would never trust this company with her working there. My desk phone rang. Chloe, can you come to conference room B? It was HR. My stomach dropped. My father had called the company headquarters directly, fabricating a story that I stole money. I walked into the meeting room to find Linda from HR and my manager, Steve. Chloe, Linda said. We received some concerning communications regarding you. Someone claiming to be your father called corporate, Steve added. He made serious allegations about fraud. It isn't true, I whispered. None of it is true. We aren't accusing you, Linda said, but we need to address this. The company's reputation is at stake. We are giving you a formal warning, Steve said. Keep your personal life separate from work. I walked back to my desk in a daze. My coworkers glanced at me and looked away. They knew. While I was sitting there trying not to cry, my phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Ben. Sarah and I want to help. Can you meet us for dinner? There is someone I want you to meet. That evening, Uncle Ben drove me to a sleek glass building downtown. She is the best, he said as we walked into the lobby. Her name is Lysandra Vale. She specializes in financial fraud and family law. Lysandra was a woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and eyes that missed nothing. She listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she sat back. "Do you have documentation?" she asked. "Of what?" "The joint account deposits, the video, the harassment, the call to your employer." I nodded. "I have bank statements, screenshots of the texts. The video is still on Facebook. HR has a record of the call." A slow, shark-like smile spread across Lysandra's face. "Good. That is very good." "This is textbook financial exploitation," she said, tapping her pen. "You were a minor when the account was opened. You have been making deposits for years. They have been withdrawing funds for personal luxury items without your consent." "And the harassment campaign," she added, "especially the call to your employer, constitutes intentional infliction of emotional distress." "So you think we have a case?" I asked, hope flickering in my chest. "I think we have an excellent case," she replied. Then she paused. "But I have to be upfront about costs." My heart sank. I charge $350 an hour. A case like this could cost $25,000 to $30,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. "I only have about $20,000 in savings," I whispered. "If it drags on, I will be bankrupt." The thought of giving up flashed through my mind. My family was probably gloating right now, thinking they had won because I had gone silent. Uncle Ben put a hand on my shoulder. "Sarah and I have agreed to support you with $10,000. Don't worry about the money." I stared at him. "Uncle Ben, I can't." "You can, and you will," he said firmly. "This is what family does." Lysandra looked at me, her eyes flashing with intelligence. "I will charge a flat fee of $25,000 for everything until the lawsuit concludes," she said. "And I believe we will recover much more than that." "A flat fee?" I blinked. "Yes, because when I see a case this strong, I bet on it." "Okay," I said, my voice steady for the first time in days. "Let's do it." "Excellent," Lysandra said. "I need you to sign a retainer, and I need you to do one more thing." "What?" "Unblock your family. Let them keep texting. Don't respond, but let them dig their own grave with every message." I signed the papers. The trap was set. That night, I unblocked everyone. Within minutes, the texts started rolling in. "Mom, your silence speaks volumes. You should be ashamed." "Jessica, when you come crawling back, don't expect us to forgive you." "Tyler, hope you're happy you ruined Christmas." "Dad, a daughter who steals deserves nothing." I screenshotted every single one and filed them in a folder labeled Evidence. Let them talk. Back in Lysandra's office 3 days later, she laid out the strategy. "We are filing 2 causes of action," she explained. "Defamation of character because they publicly branded you a thief, and tortious interference with employment because of the call to your boss." "What happens next?" "Discovery," she smiled. "The phase where everyone has to show their cards." Lysandra's paralegal filed subpoenas for bank records on the joint account. When the statements arrived, Lysandra spread them out like crime scene photos. "Look at this," she said. "Month after month. Chloe Miller, deposit $2,000. Chloe Miller, deposit $2,000. And here," she pointed to the withdrawals. "Jessica Miller, salon, $1,200. Barbara Miller, country club, $800. Tyler Miller, electronics store, $600. The numbers told the story I had lived but never voiced. I was the engine. They were the passengers. But the real bombshell came from the asset investigation. Lysandra had hired a forensic accountant named Margaret. "Your father took out a second mortgage on the estate," Margaret explained during our meeting. 14 months ago, amount $175,000. I blinked. "Why?" "Business investment purposes," Margaret read from the file. "But we found no legitimate business entity. It seems he gambled on a scheme and lost it all. Does my mother know? The documents only required one signature because the deed is in your father's name. My jaw dropped. They were drowning in debt and pretending to be royalty. 4 months after Christmas Eve, I walked into the county courthouse wearing my best navy blazer. My family was there. They looked diminished. They hadn't hired a lawyer because they couldn't afford the retainers. They were representing themselves. My father wore a wrinkled suit. My mother clutched his arm. Jessica chewed gum nervously. Tyler scrolled on his phone until the bailiff yelled at him. "All rise," the bailiff announced. Judge Patricia Moreno entered the room. She looked like she had heard every excuse in the book. Case number 24CV8831, Miller versus Miller, she read. Lysandra stood up. "Ready for the plaintiff, Your Honor." Arthur lurched to his feet. "Ready for the defense, Your Honor." Lysandra was surgical. She presented the bank statements first, showing the clear pattern of my deposits and their withdrawals. Then came the social media posts. Screenshots of Tyler's Instagram story calling me a thief. Tortious interference requires proof of intent to disrupt employment, Lysandra argued. Mr. Tyler Miller tagged the plaintiff's employer. He made allegations designed to get her fired. Then the defamation evidence, texts from Jessica, voicemails from Mom. When it was my father's turn, he unraveled immediately. "Your Honor, this is ridiculous," he shouted. "My daughter is making a mountain out of a molehill. Families have disagreements." "Mr. Miller," Judge Moreno interrupted, "did you or did you not send this email to your brother claiming she stole funds?" "I was upset." "Did you know the allegations were false?" "I believed she took money." "From an account she contributed $2,000 a month to?" Lysandra interjected. "She was living under our roof," my father yelled. "She was eating our food. That money was her contribution." "Was there a written agreement?" the judge asked. Silence. "Was she ever prevented from accessing funds before December 24th? More silence. "Mr. Miller, stick to facts." But he couldn't. "She is vindictive," he screamed, his face turning red. "She abandoned us on Christmas. She is the selfish one." The bailiff took a step forward. Judge Moreno slammed her gavel. "Control yourself, Mr. Miller, or I will hold you in contempt." Then Lysandra played the ace. "Your Honor, Exhibit F." The video played on the courtroom screens, me on my hands and knees scrubbing the rug. Tyler's voice mocking me. "Look at Cinderella." Jessica laughing. The courtroom was dead silent. "This video was posted by Tyler Miller," Lysandra said quietly. "It shows the reality of the household. The plaintiff was not a daughter. She was unpaid labor. She was a scapegoat and a piggy, I bank. And when she stood up for herself, they tried to destroy her." My father tried to sputter a response, but the judge held up a hand. "I have heard enough." The verdict came 2 weeks later. I was at my desk when Lysandra called. "We won," she said. "Complete victory." I sat down hard. The judge ruled their behavior was malicious. Defamation proven. Tortious interference proven. She awarded you $130,000 in compensatory damages. $130,000? I gasped. "Plus attorney fees," Lysandra added. "That is another $25,000. "I can't believe it." "Believe it," she said. "Now comes the fun part. Collection." My family didn't have the cash, obviously, so Lysandra filed a property lien against the estate. That meant they couldn't sell or refinance without paying me first, but the universe had a sense of humor. The bank holding my father's secret second mortgage initiated foreclosure proceedings. He had missed 3 payments. Faced with losing everything to the bank, my parents made the only choice left. They listed the house for sale. It sold in 6 weeks for $450,000. On a rainy Tuesday in April, I drove to the title company office. I sat in my car across the street and watched my parents arrive. Lysandra told me later what happened inside. The escrow officer, Brenda, slid the settlement statement across the table. "Sale price, $450,000, Brenda said. My father's eyes lit up. He did the mental math. Even with the mortgages, he thought he would walk away with enough to start over. Minus first mortgage payoff, $200,000, Brenda continued. Minus broker fees, $27,000. Minus closing costs, $8,000. My father nodded. Still over $200,000 left. Then Brenda flipped the page. Additionally, there is a court-ordered lien filed by Chloe Miller. We are legally required to wire $130,000 directly to her, plus attorney fees of $25,000. My father's face went pale. Net proceeds to seller, $60,000. My mother started crying. "This can't be right," my father croaked. "There is no mistake," Brenda said, sliding a calculator across the table. The house they were so proud of, the symbol of their superiority, was gone. And I had taken the lion's share of the equity. I was in the middle of a budget meeting when my phone buzzed. I ignored it, adhering to my professional boundaries. But when the meeting ended, I opened my banking app at my desk. The notification was stark and beautiful. Wire transfer received, $155,000. Sender, First American Title Company. I stared at the number for a full minute. Around me, the office hummed with normal sounds, keyboards clacking, phones ringing. But my world had just shifted on its axis. I held the dollar equivalent of my dignity in the palm of my hand. I didn't cheer. I just closed the app, took a deep breath, and went back to work. That night, sitting alone in my apartment with a mug of chamomile tea, I finally let myself smile. This wasn't a gift. This was restitution. They had tried to break me, and instead, they had funded my freedom. The next morning, I drove to Aunt Sarah and Uncle Ben's house. The wisteria was blooming along their fence, purple flowers smelling like spring. Aunt Sarah answered the door with dirt on her cheek from gardening. "Chloe, I wasn't expecting you." Uncle Ben was in the kitchen making a sandwich. I sat at their table, the same one where I'd cried months ago. I pulled an envelope from my purse and slid it across the table. "What is this?" Aunt Sarah asked. $10,000, I said, plus an extra $200 for interest, even though you said you didn't want it. Uncle Ben opened the envelope and saw the cashier's check. "Chloe, you didn't have to." "Yes, I did," I said firmly. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You gave me the tools to fight." Aunt Say, Ra's eyes got shiny. She reached across and squeezed my hand. "We are so proud of you, sweetheart." I stayed for lunch, and we talked about normal things, garden plans, retirement, travel. It felt clean. A chapter was closing. 12 months have passed since the gavel fell. I am sitting in my new studio apartment, my own place, purchased with a mortgage I qualified for all by myself. It isn't a mansion. It is 500 square feet with a galley kitchen, but every inch of it is mine. The walls are painted a soft gray I chose. The bookshelf holds my favorite novels, not family photo albums where I am pushed to the edge of the frame. I don't eat leftovers unless I want to. I don't serve anyone but myself. The settlement money sits in a high-yield savings account, acting as my safety net. I have a retirement account now. I see a therapist twice a month to unpack 26 years of being told I didn't matter. Tomorrow I am having lunch with Aunt Sarah. She is making glazed ham and pecan pie. "You should come over," she told me on the phone. "We will make it a proper celebration." "Celebration of what?" I asked. "1 year of freedom," she replied. So tomorrow, I will go. And when she serves the pecan pie, the same dessert I once scraped off a rug while my brother filmed me, I will add a scoop of vanilla ice cream, Not because someone told me I could have it, but because I want it. And I will enjoy every single bite. I don't keep tabs on my family anymore. I block them on everything. But information seeps through. I heard from a cousin that my father is working night shifts as a janitor at a storage facility. Apparently, he tried to post long rants on Facebook about being betrayed, but most people just blocked him. My mother filed for divorce 6 months after the house sale. She is living in a subsidized apartment now. Jessica and Tyler drifted away to different cities. No forwarding addresses. They cut contact with everyone when the money ran out. I don't feel sorry, for them. I don't feel vindicated in a chest-thumping way either. Mostly, I just feel free. Free from the script that said I had to endure abuse because we shared DNA. Free from the lie that staying silent was the same as being kind. I set down my mug of cocoa and walked to the window. The city lights blur into soft halos below. I think about the girl I was a year ago, the one who scrubbed floors and swallowed insults. She is still part of me, but she isn't all of me anymore. Now I am the woman who fought back. The woman who hired a lawyer, gathered evidence, and won. They thought I was the help because I stayed quiet. They didn't know I was just saving my voice for the testimony that would end them. I smile at my reflection in the glass. I am not anyone's maid anymore. I am just Chloe. The city lights outside my window shimmered like distant stars, a stark contrast to the cold, dark driveway I had fled from a year ago. I looked at my reflection in the glass. I didn't see the tired, frantic girl who used to flinch at the sound of a garage door opening. I saw a woman who had walked through fire and came out holding the hose. Tomorrow, I will sit at Aunt Sarah's table. I will smell the brown sugar and toasted pecans wafting from her oven. I will watch Uncle Ben carve a glazed ham that was bought with affection, not obligation. And when dessert is served, I won't be standing by the sink scrubbing dishes while everyone else laughs in the other room. I will be sitting right there with them. I will take a slice of that pecan pie. I will watch the cold vanilla bean ice cream slowly melt into the warm, sticky filling. I will take a bite, and I know exactly what it will taste like. It won't taste like servitude. It won't taste like burnt scraps or bitter leftovers. It will taste like victory. It will taste like peace. Because I am not the maid. I am not the scapegoat. I am not the bank. I am just Chloe. And for the first time in my life, that is more than enough.